Welcome to freedivorce.com.
This is Christina.
This is Ed. Today we're going to talk about the Dissomaster computer program that courts use to calculate the base amount of child support. This is a long and complicated explanation. We had to break it up into 2 videos. If you don't want to spend the time learning how the Dissomaster program works, you can skip ahead to the video that explains how to determine the base child support amount without using the Dissomaster program. However, we strongly recommend that you don't skip ahead. Even if you don't intend to do your own child support calculation, you should listen to this video and the next video about the Dissomaster program because we cover a lot of information that is extremely useful when it comes to understanding how the amount of base child support is determined.
Ed, if I want to run a base child support calculation using a computer software program such as Dissomaster, how do I get access to the program?
One option is to purchase the program. You can purchase the Dissomaster program as well as similar programs by going online. For example, the Dissomaster program can be purchased through iTunes. However, you may find that the iTunes version of the Dissomaster program can only be used on your iPad.
Ed, would you explain how the Dissomaster child support calculation program works?
If you run a child support calculation on Dissomaster, when you're done, you can print out a copy of the calculation. The printout usually consists of the first page that contains the calculation plus a bonus chart. We have a sample Dissomaster printout with a bonus chart in our court forms database. This is what the first page of the Dissomaster sample printout looks like. We will be referring to this page throughout this video. We will show you what the Dissomaster sample bonus chart looks like in the next video. Again, you can find both of these pages in our court forms database. The 2 pages are in one PDF entitled Dissomaster Support Calculation.
What if I want to use a different child support calculation program besides Dissomaster?
Well, our sample support guideline calculation was done using Dissomaster because that is the program that almost all courts in California use to run a base child support number. If you run the calculation using a different software program, your support calculation printout will look somewhat different than the Dissomaster program printout that you see in front of you, but most of the child support programs that you can purchase have very similar formats. How the printout looks is not important. What is important is that all of the child support calculation programs produce very similar child support numbers. Of course, you only want to run child support programs that are designed for the state of California. Other states have very different rules when it comes to child support.
How do I run the Dissomaster program?
When you open up the Dissomaster program to run the child support calculation, you will note that there are lots of lines for entering data. Take a look at the left-hand side of the sample printout. The data entry lines are listed on the left side. They start with the line that reads number of children and include items such as wages and salary. Another data entry line is other taxable income. Another data entry line is health insurance. There are over 30 data entry lines that are listed on the left-hand side of the page. Just to the right of those data entry lines, you have a column for father and you have another column for mother. You enter data for father or husband in the father column. You enter data for mother or wife in the mother column. For example, if you look at our sample printout, we have entered $4,333 for father's wages and salary, and then we entered $1,500 for mother's wages and salary. After you enter all of your data, you then push the Enter key on your keyboard, and the program will then calculate the amount of the base child support.
Do I have to enter data for each of the data entry lines?
No. Not all data entry lines will apply to your case. In a typical case, most of the data entry lines won't apply. Each data entry will impact the final child support number, Although all data entries impact the calculation, there are a few entries that have the largest overall impact.
Which data entries are the most important?
Well, the amount of income each party earns is certainly one of the most important factors in determining how much child support is owed. The next most important factor is the custodial timeshare percentage. A father that has physical custody of his children 40% of the time will pay a lot less child support than a father who has physical custody of the children only 5% of the time. And the reason for this is simple. If a father has physical custody of the children 40% of the time, he should be buying their food 40% of the time, providing housing 40% of the time, buying 40% of their clothing, etc. He should pay a lot less support than a father who has physical custody of the children only 5% of the time. Now again, all of the computer entries are important, but some of the other more important data entries include how much each party pays for health insurance, how much each party contributes to their 401k account, do they have other children from other marriages or relationships that live with them, and what is their income tax filing status? Those entries are important.
Do some of the data entries that you would expect to make the child support number go down actually make it go up?
Yes. Some of the entries seem counterintuitive. For example, if the father is paying child support and he has a huge mortgage payment, you would think that he would get a break and pay less child support. However, the fact is that the big mortgage payment will cause him to pay an even higher amount of child support. The support program sees the interest portion of the mortgage payment as a tax deduction, and it concludes that the father has more after-tax income and can therefore afford to pay a higher amount of child support. The same counterintuitive result happens in regards to 401k contributions. If a father is having a lot of his salary taken out of his paycheck and put into his 401k account, he may think he will owe less child support because he has less net income. However, the 401k contribution will cause him to pay even more child support than he would owe if he did not make the 401k contribution. As far as the computer program is concerned, the 401k contribution means father pays less income tax and he can therefore afford to pay more child support. As a side note, some 401k plans are for Roth 401k accounts, for which the employee does not get a tax deduction. Contributions to a Roth 401k account will not impact the child support number.
Can you go over some of the entries on our sample Dissomaster program so I understand what I'm looking at?
Sure. Take a look at the sample Dissomaster printout. We have used a fairly simple calculation as an example. We're assuming the parties have 2 children and the children reside primarily with mother. You can see those entries in the first data entry line that reads number of children. And we have 2 in the mother's column. The second data entry line reads percent time with NCP. Now that means what percentage of time the children spend with the non-custodial parent. That's what NCP stands for, non-custodial parent. We have entered 30% in father's column. That means the children spend 30% of their time in father's physical custody and the rest of their time with mother. The next data entry is filing status. We have indicated that father will be filing his tax returns as a single man and mother will be filing as head of household. The entry HH/MLA in mother's column stands for head of household or married living apart. In the next data entry line entitled Number Federal Exemptions, we indicate that father will have 1 tax exemption, himself, and mother will have 3 tax exemptions, herself and the 2 children. We are assuming father earns $4,333 per month and mother earns $1,500 per month. You will see the $4,333 number and the $1,500 number in the wages and salary data entry line. These salary numbers are the gross amounts of each party's salary, not the net after-tax amounts of their earnings. Always use the gross before-tax amounts for purposes of calculating child support. We are further assuming that father pays $300 per month for health insurance. You will see the $300 entry in father's column about 2/3 of the way down from the data entry line that reads health insurance. So those are all of the entries we have made for purposes of this calculation. We made those data entries and then we pushed the enter button on our computer keyboard and the program then calculated the child support number.
Where is the child support number on this sample printout?
The base child support numbers, which again are called guideline child support numbers, appear in the center of the printout. We have highlighted the child support and the spousal support numbers in yellow. The line that reads CS payor father tells you that father is the parent paying the child support. Basic CS in the amount of $863 is the base or guideline child support amount per month that father would owe mother.
I see the line that reads basic CS and the 863 number, but I also see just below that a line that reads presumed per kid. What is that about?
If you have more than one child, the guideline child support numbers are allocated between the children, with the youngest child receiving more child support than the oldest child. Looking at our sample Dissomaster printout, you will see that the child support is allocated $305 to child number 1, which is the oldest child, and $558 to child number 2, which is the youngest child. Again, we have highlighted these numbers. These two numbers add up to the $863 total child support. You want the child support allocated in this fashion, not split equally between the children.
Why is the 863 in total child support allocated $305 to the oldest child and $558 to the youngest child?
The reason the support program allocates more support for younger children has to do with child support ending when the oldest child turns 18 years old and drops off the dole, so to speak. If a couple has only one child, a fair amount of support may be $500 per month for that one child. The child support number can be fairly high because the parent is paying support for only one child. If that same couple has 5 kids, $500 per month per child may be way more than the supporting parent can afford. The amount owed per child decreases as the number of children increases. It costs less to raise children when you have a group of children. Rather than have a support order that equally allocates the total amount of child support between each child, the program figures out how much should be paid for the total number of children and then allocates the amount so that as each child turns 18 and drops off, the amount of child support owed for the remaining children is still fair. This approach eliminates the need for the custodial parent to go back to court for a new child support order each time an older child turns 18 years old.
In the sample calculation, you list father's salary as $4,333 per month. My husband has a base salary, but then he also gets extra pay because he frequently works a lot of overtime, and at least once per year he gets a big bonus. How does that extra income factor into the child support calculation?
We're going to cover those issues in our next video. This has been a presentation by freedivorce.com.